Hi everyone, it's Rosemary, and we are ready to start the A in our word Halloween. And if you look back at one of my other videos, you will see that I made a pumpkin the last time I did the letter A. And this time I thought it would be fun to try a haunted house. I'm not even sure how it's going to come out, but we're going to give it a try. And you'll learn a little bit about how to use your shapes that are in your software. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to where it says shapes, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to pick a shape, and I want to just do a square, and I'm going to just click and drag, and that's going to draw a square just like that. And I actually have it set right now for a running stitch and no fill. So if I came up here and I changed this to a satin stitch, it would do a satin stitch, and if I told it to fill it, it would fill it just like that. But I don't want it to be filled, so I'm going to say no sew, and I want this to be a running stitch, and I'm going to actually turn this into an applique. And the way you do that is you go over here where it says, actually I'm going to go home and then go over here where it says applique wizard, and it's going to say that it's going to do a tack down and then an applique position. Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to do basically the fabric and then the position, which we always do the opposite way. We do the position and then the fabric, but either way. And then it's going to do a tack down. And I'm going to say don't do the tack down because when it does the zigzag, it does another tack down. So we're going to say do a zigzag, and we're going to make it a little bit wider than what it says. And we're going to replace this because we don't want it to do that last one. So now when we say okay, voila, I have an applique of the house. And now we're going to put a roof on that. And instead of using, I could go in here and choose a triangle like this one, but I want it to be kind of a crooked triangle. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick this shape drawer, and I'm going to go up like this and down, and then double click, and it closed. Now we'll select that and we'll say home, applique wizard. It's already set the way we had it before, and say okay. So now I have two shapes. It looks like this one's a little bit out of my box, but that's okay. I'll change that a little bit later. And I'm going to let this applique make over the top of this one because no one will ever notice it once it's covered up. So then the next thing I think I wanted to do is to try and make it look a little bit more like an A. I'm going to put a door right here. So I'm going to go back into shapes, choose this, tell it to come up, and let's kind of make it a little bit of a crooked door. Double click, and it just made a door. I'm going to come back up here, get my select tool. So now the door is selected, and we are going to tell it to fill that with, well, I don't know. What color fabric am I going to do this in? I'm probably going to do it in like a gray. We could do, let's fill it with like a green, and then later we may change our mind about what that's going to look like. And then let's have it outlined with a zigzag stitch. So there's our door, and then we're going to have a crooked window too. So we're going to go home and into shapes, and let's draw there's a window, and that will kind of make it look like an A, especially once it's next to the H and everything, it's going to look like an A. So the next thing I want to do is I want to change this window. I don't want it to be a green door. So I'm going to go up here to my selector and select it, and I'm going to tell it to do it in black. And then I'm going to go home, and I think what I want to do is I'm going to hit my magnifying glass, and I'm going to click and drag so I get pretty close to this crazy window that I just drew. And I'm going to make some broken glass. And so I'm going to go into shapes, and change this to white and change, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Undo. Shapes. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. I'm going to go home and do this shape here. Get this one. And I'm going to click, 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 double click. So now I have white there, but it has a black outline, which I don't want. So I'm going to come over here and select that and say, don't sew the black outline, not sewn. And then here, I want to change this to the radial stitch, I think. I'll have to click it first and see if that's what I wanted. I think that looks pretty good. It's kind of a crazy stitch. Let me try something else first before. Concentric circle. Nope, that's not it. So you can see that you can pick a whole lot of different stitch fills just to see kind of what you want it to look like. Yeah, let's do radial stitch, and let's come over here to the density and maybe make it less dense. And then see this little center part right here? That's where the radial is going to. So if I come over here and I hit select and choose this, the edit tool, the one that usually puts the little boxes in it. No, that's not what I want. This one. Yeah, I'm sorry. The first one I wanted was the edit tool. That was the right one. And see the little square right there? I'm going to take that square and I'm going to move it all the way out here. So all of my lines go towards this. I think that looks pretty good. It looks like a broken window to me. So we're going to leave that. And I think that looks good. But the black outline around the window is underneath the window, the broken window part itself. So I don't want that. So I have to go over here to where my sewing order is. And here, this part's the window, this part's the black, this part's the satin stitch. I'm going to hit the plus sign to separate those two. Click off of them and then grab this and drag it down. Whoops, that was the door. Don't do that. Grab this one, put it under the window right there. See, so now the window goes underneath the frame that goes around it. And according to the fabric that I'm going to sew, I could make this satin stitch a different color, just as whatever you would think it would be. I think maybe right now where I've got it selected, I'm going to make it kind of a gray. Oh, that's not good. I don't like that. Start gray like that. So, and then I have the option to change it a little bit later. I can make my zigzag width a little wider too. Let's try this. You can see that I'm kind of making this up as I go along. That is way too wide. I didn't want it to be that wide. That looks pretty good. I like that. And I think it's going to make it look like an A. So let's zoom back out again. We're going to go home, zoom all. And so the only other thing I think my haunted house needs, and what's cool about this is I can do two different fabrics if I decide I want to do two different fabrics. But I think it needs some lines. So let's go under shapes and just choose a line tool. And then we're going to go click, double click. Oops, let's see. That is a do not sew line, isn't it? So change this and then change this to a satin stitch. There, that looks pretty good. So now we'll go back home and get that straight stitch tool. Now that we've changed it, all the ones that come after it should do the same thing. It doesn't have to be a fancy haunted house, just enough to make you think letter A. And then to make sure that everybody knows that this is a haunted house. Here, let's um I think I want to put the window after those lines. So if I move this down, you see all of the black is together there. I'm going to open that up. Let's pull this down. You can see all those lines. And I can take this part and drag it down all the way down. We're going to drop it right there. And then I'm going to come back up here. There's the glass. Let's pull it all the way down. Keep going. Drop it down here. And then there's the frame right here. Drag it down all the way down here. So now the window, all three parts of the window are after, and the outside of the door and everything are after all those little lines. So that way anything that where it stops and starts will get covered up with a satin stitch and nobody will ever see it. Okay, so what I was saying before I got distracted by everything is I wanted to make sure people know this is a haunted house. I want a ghost. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go home. I'm going to hit plus so I can zoom right here. And then we are going to use the circle tool here. And we're going to go, it's not a circle tool, but it's a rounded edge shape tool. So you can see it's making a rounded edge here. You can see that the last thing I did is there, but that's okay. Because watch, we're going to hit here and we're going to choose this and we're going to click on that and say to straight. And we're going to click on this one and we're going to say to straight. And then move this up here. And then after we got all that done, we're going to change this fill to white and change this to do not sew. And then let's zoom in even more. Let's go so that we're right here. And then I'm going to go shapes, circle, black. And I'm going to do Control D, which will duplicate. And I could do a scary mouth if I want to. I think I want to turn the eyes this way. You know what? I think what I want to do is I'm going to go into my shapes again and I'm going to draw a circle here and I'm going to turn that white. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to go into shapes. Let's get a tool here. Oops, that didn't do anything. It drew something, but we can't see it. So let's change that to a zigzag stitch. Okay, let's zoom out and see if this is silly looking or not. Oh, I don't know. Zoom all. I don't know. It may need a little bit of work. Um, so the biggest thing is I want to make sure that this is behind the house, right? Just the same way we move the doors, we're going to move that. So I am going to go down here to the bottom and I'm going to select this one. I'm going to hold on my shift key and select that one. So all four of those pieces that I just drew are all connected to each other, and we're going to drag them all the way up so they sew first before anything else sews. And let's zoom in. I think what I want to do is click on this and see if I can't. Let's go under shapes, and instead of saying not so, let's just do a running stitch around the outside. Zoom all. I don't care. I might have to work on it a little bit, but at least you get the idea. So there's a lot of different things you can do with just using your imagination and sewing and drawing around things. I could have brought in a clip art of a ghost and traced around it and added it right there if I wanted to, in the same way that I brought in clip art in some of my other classes that I've done. But you get the idea. This is exactly what I want. I'll keep working on it and I'll come back in a little bit and I'll show you what I ended up with. Okay, I'm back. So I did a little bit of differences. I'll show you. I'm going to zoom in really fast. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. To my ghost. And I'll show you. I just basically changed his mouth so it was round instead of smiling. And then I kind of worked around the hands a little bit until I got something that looked more like what I was trying to do. So, and I enlarged the window and I changed the roof so it was a little bit flatter. So that just took a little bit of work to get that where I wanted it to be. And I've had a chance to think about this a little bit. And what I want to do is I want to add some decorations around the edges of the roof just to give it a little bit of bling. So one of the things that you might not be aware of is in the home tool bar under import patterns, you have from file, which is where you get all of your files that you have in your computer that you can bring from. But if you go to the design library, it'll open up over here a whole bunch of designs that are available to you to use that are from Brother. And if I click the down arrow, you'll see that you have lace and ribbon, miscellaneous, monogram stitches, quilt stitches, sports, all sorts of things. And these are all designs that you can use. But then also, see right here where it says From Design Library, if I click the down arrow on that, then it also gives you some templates, decorative patterns, and there is a thing that's called outline shapes. And I like these because they're just a shape. They're nothing else but a solid color and a shape. So I'm going to take this one, click on it, and say import, and then move that to the top here. And I'm going to make that under shapes. I'm going to make it, well, it says it has a triple stitch around it. We don't want a triple stitch, so let's not sew that. And let's make this black. And then I'm going to add this one. Let's see, this one. Import. Here it is right here. I'm going to put it over here. And I'm going to go home and zoom in. so we can get really close to what we're doing here. And I've got the zoom tool, so I'll get my selector tool. And I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to flip it around. And then if you go to the home tool and go to rotate flip, we can flip it so it's here. Put it right there. Now, let's get even closer. I'm going to hit the plus sign, drag a box, get really close. Remember, if you hit this tool right here, it will allow you to have edit boxes. And if I drag across those edit boxes and hit delete, they will disappear. So I am going to make half of this disappear. And I'm going to put it so it kind of sits right there. Let's see, if I get back to my edit tool again and pull this so it's about as wide as the satin stitch that's in front of it, right click on this and say to straight. Right click on this one and say to straight. I think that's going to blend right into that roof. At least I'm counting on it. And then I'm going to come back over here, make that the regular selector. I'm going to do Control D. So I got two of these, and I am going to drag this over to the other side. So I'll probably have to zoom out, put it over here, rotate, flip. Let's zoom in. You'll notice I zoom in and zoom out quite a bit because I'm just trying to make this fit. Okay, so this is going to be not sewn and black. And this one over here on this side, whoops, too far over, is going to be not sewn and black. And let's just take those, I just drew all three of these, and put them right by where my satin stitch for my outline is on my house. And zoom all. Well, let's hope that looks like a haunted house when we get finished with it. I'm going to find some really fun fabric to go inside of this, and hopefully it, once it gets next to my H, it's going to look like an A. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine. I'm going to save it to a stick and get ready to sew it out, and we're going to see what it looks like. So I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I took this to my sewing machine and I sewed it out, and here's my H and my A. I confess, I don't think it's a really great haunted house. I could have put a lot of detail in it, but I do think it looks like a letter A, which was my main goal in the first place. And I'm hoping that in doing this, you may have learned a little bit more of some things you can do with your PE Design 11. Next week, we'll do the LL, and I'll try and do something different and interesting with the LL. Maybe we'll put it in the Design Center. That ought to be really fun for those of you who have never done that before. And I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.